Inside the Mexican Mafia, America's deadliest prison brotherhood exposed. Subscribe for more real crime stories. Like, share, and join the discussion below. The prison yard at Pelican Bay was silent, too silent. On the morning of October 12, 1998, correctional officers noticed something unusual: a circle of inmates standing motionless around a picnic table in the exercise yard. At the center, face down and unmoving, lay the body of a man everyone in the prison knew: Michael "Spider" Thompson, a shot caller for the Mexican Mafia. His jumpsuit was soaked through, the ground beneath him dark with blood. When officers rushed in, the inmates didn't move. No one spoke. Not one person dared to look away from the body. As officers cuffed prisoners and called for medical backup, whispers began to spread across the yard. "Laim did it," one inmate muttered under his breath. It didn't make sense. Spider was one of them. But inside California's prison system, loyalty had its limits. Word spread quickly through Pelican Bay, Folsom, and San Quentin. The Mexican Mafia had just executed one of its own. By the time investigators arrived, they discovered a crudely sharpened shank buried near a drainage grate, its handle wrapped in tape, marked with 2 letters scratched into the metal: EM for Laim. The message was clear: betrayal would be met with death. What the guards didn't yet know was that this wasn't a random prison killing. Spider's death was the opening act of a war, one that would expose secret communication networks, federal corruption, and the terrifying reach of an organization that ruled California's prisons from the inside out. The FBI's gang task force was called in within hours. Agents found coded notes, so-called kites, circulating through inmate mail, full of strange phrases: green light, tax collectors, Black Widow. When decoded, they revealed assassination orders, extortion demands, and even payment lists from the outside world. It was a shadow government operating behind bars, with generals, soldiers, and spies. And now, one of those generals had been silenced. As officers loaded Spider's body onto a stretcher, one guard leaned toward another and whispered, "You think the others will talk?" The older guard just shook his head. "No one talks about Laim. Not unless they want to end up like him." Moments later, another inmate was dragged out of his cell screaming, "I didn't say nothing." Blood dripped from his hands. On his chest, written in ink, were 2 words: greenlit. Inside Pelican Bay, a silent message echoed through every tier: the Mexican Mafia is cleaning house. But who ordered Spider's death, and why? That secret, investigators would soon learn, led far beyond the prison walls, to a war that had been brewing for decades, one written in code, loyalty, and blood. To understand why Michael "Spider" Thompson died, investigators had to go back to where it all began. The year was 1957, inside California's dual vocational institution, a prison meant for rehabilitation. Instead, it became the birthplace of something dark. A young inmate named Luis, Güero Buff Flores, tired of seeing Latino prisoners attacked and exploited, gathered a handful of trusted men. They formed a brotherhood, Laim, the Spanish letter M for Mexican Mafia. At first, it was about survival. Inmates stuck together to protect their own from rival groups. But survival soon turned into power. By the late 1960s, Laim ran the California prison system from the shadows. Drugs, gambling, and extortion all flowed through their control. Nothing happened inside without their blessing. Every cell block had its mesa, or council, and every member answered to the carnales, the brothers in power. When one refused, consequences followed swiftly. The Mexican Mafia didn't use threats, they used examples. By the 1980s, Laim's reach had spilled far beyond prison walls. Members who finished their sentences didn't go straight. They became the outside operators, collecting drug profits, enforcing street taxes, and punishing those who refused to pay. Federal agents later described the gang as a prison-based cartel with military precision. Even street gangs in Los Angeles, like 18th Street and Florencia 13, took orders from Laim shot callers sitting behind bars hundreds of miles away. In 1995, Operation Black Widow began. The FBI had infiltrated Laim using hidden informants, one of them a man once considered loyal, a foot soldier turned witness. Through recorded phone calls and smuggled letters, agents uncovered murder plots stretching from California to Arizona. One letter seized in Folsom Prison contained names, payment orders, and a simple phrase, "Spider must answer." That's how Michael "Spider" Thompson entered the story. Once a respected lieutenant, he had begun questioning the leadership's growing greed. Some said he was taking money from the street taxes and hiding it. Others whispered that Spider was planning to cooperate with investigators. In the Mexican Mafia, rumors were death sentences. When FBI agents pieced together the coded messages found after Spider's murder, they realized something chilling. The order had come from inside Pelican Bay itself, signed off by a man serving life without parole, Ruben "Tupi" Hernandez, one of the founding members of LAIM. From a maximum security cell, he had commanded a killing hundreds of feet away, using nothing but paper, trust, and fear. Investigators now had proof. LAIM wasn't just a prison gang. It was an empire with no borders, no walls, and no mercy. But as they prepared to strike back, with indictments, wiretaps, and raids across California, one undercover agent was about to discover that the Mexican Mafia had already marked him for death. It began before dawn on June 5, 2001. Helicopters thundered over Los Angeles, San Diego, and Fresno as over 500 federal agents moved in at once. The operation, codenamed Black Widow, was the largest law enforcement strike ever launched against the Mexican Mafia. SWAT teams kicked down doors, seizing weapons, drugs, cash, and coded notebooks filled with names and phone numbers. The FBI believed they were finally about to cripple LAIM's empire. But inside Pelican Bay, the shot callers already knew it was coming. Someone on the inside had tipped them off. Agents found shredded letters and burned notes in cell toilets, evidence that messages had been destroyed only hours before the raids began. Still, the arrests hit hard. 40 members and associates were taken into custody that morning, including the man the FBI believed ordered Spider's murder, Ruben "Tupi" Hernandez. In court, prosecutors unveiled a chilling picture of how deep LAIM's power ran. From solitary confinement, Tupi had issued orders through coded kites, each message written in a mix of Spanish slang, numbers, and symbols. One note described how taxes from street gangs were to be divided: 30% to the Mesa, 10% for protection, 60% for the Familia. It wasn't just crime, it was governance. Then came the testimony that silenced the courtroom. A witness under federal protection, known only as Witness X, took the stand. He had once been an enforcer for LAIM, tasked with carrying out the very kind of hits that killed Spider Thompson. With his voice trembling, he described how one word, green light, could seal a man's fate anywhere in the country. He explained how LAIM used fear, loyalty, and religion to control thousands of inmates and street soldiers. "You can leave the prison," he said, "but you never leave the aim." The trials dragged on for years. Dozens were convicted, but for every leader removed, another rose to take his place. Even behind bars, the Mexican Mafia continued to operate through family members, coded calls, and loyal soldiers who treated its rules as law. Agents later learned that one of the undercover informants in Operation Black Widow, an officer named Mikey Gomez, had been exposed. Days before he was due to testify, he disappeared. His car was later found abandoned in East Los Angeles. To this day, his body has never been recovered. Despite hundreds of convictions and decades of crackdowns, the Mexican Mafia remains one of America's most feared prison brotherhoods. Its influence runs through courtyards, cell blocks, and city streets, an invisible empire bound by silence and blood. As one retired FBI agent later said, staring at a wall of mugshots from Operation Black Widow, "They don't need guns to rule. Just fear, a pencil, and a name on paper." The Mexican Mafia wasn't destroyed. It simply went quiet, waiting, watching, rebuilding from the shadows.